if you notice, when Modi went there, the chemistry between the two was very, very good. Modi's always maintained a very good relationship. He said in that press conference that India was the tariff king. And yet, India has got the lowest tariff slapped on it of any country right now.
Joining us today in TOI Studios is Abhijit Iyer Mitra, as always. And as you can see on the image behind me, we are going to decode the Trump tariff tsunami. It says storm, but we are calling it a tsunami. The image of Trump that you see behind me is one that the world is not going to forget in a hurry. Neighbors Canada and Mexico are in a tizzy, wringing their hands, don't know what to do. China is furious. The European Union and all the European countries, including UK, are livid. Of course, the only people happy are Trump and, of course, his team. In fact, Abhijit, in the aftermath of the tsunami that hit the world on Liberation Day, quote unquote, Trump told reporters that he thinks he's going very well. And you think it's just bravado, or there's a method to what many are calling Trump's madness?
Look, there's always a method to his madness, right? We may not like it or agree with it, but tell me which other president could pull off the Abraham Accords and things like that and show us stuff, right? And this was despite the fact that, all those five-star hotel lobby trotting business class traveling NGOs and think tanks were telling you it was impossible and etc. etc. There's a very clear method to its madness. This is not just, it's not just aimed at some countries. There is, even in the tariffs, there is a story to be told out here. It's also aimed at global financial elites who have been trying to bring him down. It's aimed at international financial bureaucracies, which have, essentially restricted the sovereign powers of governments through international agreements. So it's aimed across the board at different people. The issue is, when you only look at it as trade, it seems mad. When you look at all the corollary targets out here, that's the collateral, if you want to call it that. I think they're the real targets, in fact, and trade is the collateral. But
so what you're basically saying is that Trump is the crusader out to reform the world, instead of this being a revenge, or not just revenge, actually not revenge. I would rather call it an attempt to do right by America. He wants to reform the world. Is that what you say?
Partially. Look, some of it is about America. A lot of it is about America. So if you look at the tariffs, for example, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, a lot of the EU have been slapped with tariffs that actually hurt, right? But you look at India, on paper, it's a 27% tariff. The issue is that those tariffs, if you look at the exclusion lists, pharmaceuticals, machine and machine parts, electronics, precious metals and minerals and derivatives that America does not have or does not process. You go through the list, the actual impact on Indian exports is something between $2 to $3 billion. On the other hand, you look at the impact on Bangladesh's textile industry. It is ruinous. You look at things, these small parts that China exports to America. It is ruinous. You look at the advanced machinery that Europe exports to America. It is ruinous. So even here, there's been a very clear tabulation of, it is hidden in the numbers. Disraeli used to say, there's lies, damned lies in statistics. Yes, this is one of those kind of statistics which actually hide a bigger picture. Is there an arbitrariness to these numbers? Yes. But the arbitrariness hides the actual intended thing. Have you read Agatha Christie's The ABC Murders?
Oh, yes.
Where the B and C are killed to hide the A. This is that. The randomness.
So what's the A here? Because the everybody is having a meltdown. They're saying these tariffs are random.
Yeah.
There is nothing, there's no calculation behind it. It's just on a particular person's, in this case, Trump's whims and fancies. But what is the hidden A? Whose murder? Or what is Trump trying to hide in?
So there's an A.1, A.2, A.3.
Okay.
A.1 is all the liberal governments across the world or hostile governments like China, for example, which were, very cold about Trump trying to, bring him down in different fashions, talking him down, etc., etc. But I don't think that was the primary target. A2, which is probably the more important target, were global financiers and global financial trade. And the reason for that is, you know how they've been targeting Elon Musk and bringing down his stock prices. They brought him down by almost a quarter.
Oh, of course. How can we not talk about Trump and talk about the Elon Musk?
Thing.
Yeah.
Now, what he's done is he's brought all their stocks down by several percentage points. As this continues, all these financial markets and industrialists and things like that, they're going to suffer massive, massive, massive losses. So he's hit them where it hurts. You come after my guys, I'm going to go after your guys. Right? Obviously, it's never going to be said in public, but look at the impact on financial markets. Who's getting hurt? Right? I mean, this is really a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But it's so obvious that, it just stares you in the face. The third group of persons that it's targeted at is what these international financiers have created, which is this sort of globalist liberal world order, which started with the GATT, which became the World Trade Organization, the General Agreements on Tariff Trade, which became the World Trade Organization. Then, there's this so-called carbon credit bank, which Al Gore is meant to head, which is basically, it's a money laundering scheme, essentially. Because you're not actually trading carbon. It's a bank setup.
Yeah, who says that out loud?
Yeah, who says that out loud?
You.
Only Abhijit does. So, this is a general attack on the global infrastructure that's been created. Is it a surprise that yesterday, after these, within hours of this announcement being made, the first head to fall was Klaus Schwab and his as head of the World Economic Forum, which has kind of been a pet target for MAGA folks. So, this is all sort of playing out very, very carefully.
Okay. You talked about India. Let's just shift focus to India. Unlike the rest of the world, as you've already pointed out, the impact on India of these tariffs is not all that much. But there's still that 26% tariff that's been inflicted. You told me before that that's just a name. Why would you say that?
Several reasons. So if you look at the exclusions, and you compare it with the graph of what India's major exports to America are, most of that, the high value items on the list are completely excluded from tariffs, right? Number one. Number two, pharmaceuticals, lumber goods, minerals, machine parts, things like that, which are
semiconductors, which is one of the biggest
things.
Yeah.
So, and we've actually signed an agreement with America to get those semiconductors, starting to produce them in India and things like that. Notice all of this has been excluded. And if you notice, when Modi went there, the chemistry between the two was very, very good. Modi's always maintained a very good relationship. He said in that press conference that India was the tariff king. And yet, India has got the lowest tariff slapped on it of any country right now. Any country of note right now.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do you think it is? And the exclusion list is the real story, right? It's being done. I think this is a coordinated, at least on India, it's been coordinated between Modi and Trump.
I know Piyush Goyal, our commerce minister, has made 3 trips to the US.
3 trips to the US, right?
In the last several
but this, I believe this has been carefully coordinated between, at least the India part of it, between Modi and Trump. The damage, like I said, is between $2 to $3 billion at most. I mean, it's a lot of money, but in the larger scheme of things, given India-America trade, it's negligible. That said, you look at the advantages that India has got on textiles, for example, 26%. Let's take a 10 rupee. I think Siddhant Sibal, the YN correspondent, tweeted this out. For a $10 t-shirt, the Indian prices will go up the least whereas Chinese, Bangladeshi, Lao, Vietnamese prices will go up the most. It will almost be 15-20% more expensive than a similar t-shirt made in India. Right. So even though it has been taxed, it has negated it by opening up a great price advantage for India in
and
exports.
thereby giving India a competitive edge versus all these other players who actually exported more than India textiles to the US.
And
So
the thing is, if you notice, since Mohammed Yunus took over, Bangladesh's textile exports have crashed by about almost 15% so far. India reciprocally grew by about 10%. Now imagine with all these tariffs, what's going to happen to those textile exports? This is almost green lighting India's foreign policy in Bangladesh. I think the most immediate impact is going to be Bangladesh. It's But see, you can't look at things directly. You have to look at it tangentially from, very different points of view.
as you pointed out,
Which is where this is the classic Israeli style oblique attack. They never attack directly, always attack from the sides. You attack the flanks. And the enemy is finished even before they know what's happening. That's basically what's happening up here.
okay, amid rising trade barriers now, now you're saying India's relatively mild tariffs put it in a very strategic position to benefit from the uh, from the fallout of this, but also in terms of the China factor and China being the manufacturing hub and all that, and India aspiring to get there and be the manufacturing hub. How does it help India achieve that edge vis-a-vis China?
So this is where India has to pick up its own game. Yesterday, Piyush Goyal made this statement saying, oh, look at all these billionaire sons starting up ice cream things and cookies, whereas China is starting up EVs and things like that. I can list out 15 to 20 different companies who cutting edge technology, because, today technology is at the small and micro sector. It's that 0.5% change which accumulates in a assembled product and then produces a 20% change in performance. These were actually 10-15% changes or more, even 100% changes, revolutions in small technical products. They went to the Babus, they got shafted around, and they all relocated to different countries, right, after trying for years. Now, look, you can only take the horse to the water. India ultimately has to get its regulatory systems, the second Babu Raj, as I call it, out of the way. America can only do so much. The rest we have to do. As we say, khud ko buland karna hai. Till we pick up the slack, that's not going to happen.
And that slack really can't be picked up by the government. It's the private sector has to come in and
listen,
do its bit.
If the private sector, especially the MSMEs, are doing their bit, okay, the large sector is more interested in protecting its monopolies and diversifying. So they're actually trampling over the MSMEs. The MSMEs where the actual innovation and things like that are happening are being shafted and they're going abroad, especially the startups, right? Now, I suspect this could be a way for Modi but Modi loves the bureaucracy. Single exam pass wonders who have, single exam. I've passed more exams than most IAS guys. I passed more exams than the finance secretary. But it's the secondary effects of the market could be an impetus for the kind of regulatory and professional reforms we require in our industrial infrastructure, labor reforms, land reforms, things like that. Ultimately, we have to help ourselves, right? The onus is very much on us. Are we going to pick it up, or is it going to be another opportunity lost for Nth?
Interesting. Given the changing global landscape, and I really want to come back to the world and how they're reacting to Trump and what's happening within America also, because we know that the S&P lost tremendous. It's the biggest fall. The stock markets were seeing
all of Trump's enemies. Let's call the S&P the Trump enemy index.
The Trump enemy index. Interesting. But having said that, what about, because the Trump rode to power in the USA, promising the Americans that he's going to bring in, put more money in their hats. Many have started saying that now, especially after these tariffs, that there are going to be inflationary pressures. It's going to hit them hard. Um, there even might be a recession. Who knows? In your understanding, it will get worse before it gets better. It's common sense, but do you think that Trump can withstand this worse?
I think he can. And you know why? One of the best ways of getting rid of international debt, which Trump keeps talking about, the American debt is bigger than the American GDP, significantly bigger, is through inflation. So, it wipes out a not insignificant percentage of that debt. It makes the debt cheaper to service, number one. Number two, the effect on households is going to be bad in the short term, yes, right? There's no doubt about that. The question is, how bad will it be before? Remember, the impact on other households in Europe, in China,
It's going to be worse.
is going to be a lot worse. So, it's literally, sorry to use this term, but they say it was Norman Schwarzkopf, but apparently lots of people have quoted it. When you grab people by the balls, the hearts and minds will follow. Grab them by the balls. So
yeah, but is it worth the effort given the shock and the tsunami that has engulfed the world and the accompanying economic downturn, if I may say so, that's likely to follow?
I think in Trump's matrix, where it also gets rid of his enemies or significantly weakens them for his calculus. We need to be careful. Trump's calculus is different from America's calculus and things like that. Yes. Globally, I think this is a 3 to 6 month period. They might have miscalculated. They may be wrong. The thing is, you assume rationality when you make these decisions. If there is rationality, there should be a reforming of global trade. The problem is, ceteris paribus and man is rational, which are the two assumptions of every economic theory. They're not always
the case.
So you look at how India and Australia reacted. Very, very mature. We're not going to fight our battles in public. We're going to take this up quietly on the side, which is what we did the last time also. Remember the Harley Davidson tariffs and things like that. And that works very well with Trump. Then there are people like, Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney, the
publicly go out.
The fat Trudeau, the Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, we call it fat Trudeau. Same thing, vacuous, very fat. Him, this lady Ursula von der Leyen of the EU, they've been going ballistic, berserk. I mean, what have you? And today, of course, Trump has put out this really nasty tweet about Marine Le Pen's
I saw that tweet, yeah.
There's clearly some kind of method to the madness. Is it a gamble? Yes. Is it going to pay off? I'm going to give it a 70-30 chance that maybe it'll achieve a lot of what Trump wants. You'll never get everything you want, but you'll probably get a lot of what you want. You may not, and that's the danger.
Right. And probably get what you want, but India certainly seems to be getting what India wanted in this case, because as he pointed out, Trump perhaps played the man, Modi perhaps played the man rather than the tariffs war game, so to speak. It's more about who the American president is right now, and Trump loves an ego massage, and Modi gave it to him.
And, this is the thing. This is why I admire Modi, at least in terms of diplomacy. He is the consummate diplomat. He just envelops you with warmth. I don't know if he means it or not, but you certainly don't get the feeling. Nehru used to look down on people. When he met American presidents, he'd be appalled by how crude they were and things like that. He completely ignored Kennedy, and his eyes were only for Jacqueline Bouvier and things like that. That's not the case with Modi. Modi is very tough. I mean, Trump himself has said that Modi's a very tough negotiator. In the podcast that he did, before becoming president, he was like, the Indians are nasty, but nasty in a very nice way.
Yeah.
I think this has been coordinated between Modi and Trump very, very carefully. I know for a fact there were discussions on how reciprocity is in the Modi-Trump meetings, how reciprocity was a chimera. And I'll tell you why. The issue of Florida oranges were brought up. We don't allow the import of Florida oranges, right? And he said reciprocally, why not Indian mangoes? Alfonso's go to America. Because I don't know if you've tried Mexican mangoes, they're horrible. All mangoes you get in America are horrible. Inedible almost. To an Indian, they're inedible. Generally, they're inedible. But they're Indian, they're okay. Or if you're a Chihuahua. Yeah, but I haven't tried, so wouldn't. Please don't. It's a human rights violation. And the Indian side said, well, we can do that. The problem is your Environmental Protection Agency and immigration are not going to let Indian fruits through, even if we sterilize them and spray them with, things to avoid the best germs and tastes and things come through. How is that reciprocity? So you've actually got a tariff barrier and a non-tariff barrier on it. You're just focusing on tariffs, not on the non-tariff. And that went down very, very well. And you remember how Modi ego massaged Trump on the Lex Friedman podcast, right? He was so brave. There was no security vetting and he still came out into the crowd. The Secret Service went into a tizzy. And that was the same strength of character I saw when he got shot. He did not cower. He stood up and he said, fight, fight, fight. This is, Modi has been very masterly in, I find it very, very hard to criticize Modi when it comes to foreign policy. His finance policy, well, I mean, I leave that things to be desired. Let's say that'll all be beep, 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 beep. But diplomacy and foreign policy, this man is a genius. If they tell you that Nehru was the foreign policy god, I'm sorry, but he ain't even a demigod compared to Modi.
All right. On that note, thank you, Abhijit, for giving our viewers all that much perspective on the Trump tariffs and how they're actually good for India going forward as the global landscape undergoes a fundamental shift, a fundamental reset, if I may call it. India definitely is uniquely positioned after these tariffs to sort of take advantage. And but the effort has to come from the Indian side, as Abhijit pointed out. America can only do that much for you. You have to pick up the cudgels and fight your own battles. So let's see where that takes us. What happens next? We'll keep you informed. Stay tuned to the Times of India.